for joining, everyone. I think we're actually delightfully not overly serious group. So on that note, we look forward to seeing in the chat your favorite summer food, and your name, institution, and where you are. So we have a great lineup in store for today, and really delighted that you're here. Sorry, I'm Sophie Egan, Director of the Stanford Food Institute and Sustainable Food Systems, and co-founder and co-director of the Menus of Change University Research Collaborative. So today the focus is all about rewarding better agricultural practices. This is one of the Menus of Change principles, and it's really a great opportunity for us to just jump into really kind of very timely topics, things like direct purchasing models. If anyone was at Menus of Change last week, we got to learn some interesting things along those lines and some really great examples of that. Also regenerative practices, supporting family farms, purchasing from BIPOC and other underrepresented farmers, food hubs, cooperatives, and kind of all things local and regional procurement. So Abby and I are going to keep it pretty short. I did want to mention one exciting new project that we want to keep an eye out for that's coming down the research pipeline, and it's called WasteWise, and it's a new multi-site living lab project on the impact of a chef training, so back of house pre-consumer food waste, that is looking at how effective kind of a competition among campus dining chefs can be, in just generating buy-in and enthusiasm and engagement with food waste goals and measurement efforts on a given campus, but also how much that actually reduces food waste once an idea from culinary teams are selected. So thanks, Abby, for dropping that link in the chat. There's a great kind of overview description that's been circulated if you're in the Research and Education Working Group or elsewhere. But we will be inviting institutions to participate for the fall, and we'll have space for actually 10 institutions. It's going to be one of our larger studies. It's funded with support from ReFed, and really a phenomenal opportunity to put our behavioral research expertise and collective research expertise into action. So just wanted to mention about that one. And it also relates to conversations we've been having over the years. If any of you participated in our member engagement survey in January, thank you for doing so. But also the #1 strategic priority for this year that members identified was a food waste collective impact opportunity, and really building on the successful model of our protein portfolio initiative that, of course, SFI Senior Advisor Jackie Bertoldo has led. And so I'm excited that in this new project that's Living Lab food waste research, we're actually going to have a layer that's food waste collective impact inspired. So another opportunity to make a difference kind of at a level beyond your own institution through that the power of the sum of our parts, and stay tuned for details on that. But essentially there'll be a data collection aspect and then a behavioral kind of intrinsic motivation aspect through chefs. I think that's it from my side. Ab, if you want to add anything else, if not, I'll jump into our first presentation.
Right. Yeah. So this rest of the meeting will be case studies about the rewarding better agricultural practices. So we're going to first hear from University of Reading, and then we'll hear from the CIA, and then we will hear from ILI, and then lentils.org and Oatly, in that order. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Luke and Michelle from University of Reading to start with the first case study.
Hi there. Yeah, we've got 2 separate talks. Is that okay?
Yeah, and you can each share your screen however you wish.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I'm happy to go first if that's all good.
That's great. Yeah.
Please just let me know that you can see things. I'm not that familiar with Zoom.
This looks great.
Yeah.
Is that full screen now?
Now it is. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Right. Great. Thank you very much for asking me to speak today. So my name is Luke Bell. I'm a lecturer in temperate horticulture at the University of Reading in the UK. I'm going to be talking to you quite briefly on a project that we started probably about a year or so ago called Crops on Campus, and a bit of the ideas behind that, where we are and where we want to go with it in future. So in a nutshell, Crops on Campus is a university project to produce microgreens and leafy vegetables to supply our kitchens and dining outlets. We want to help improve the sustainability of food sourcing within the catering team, and cultivate plants locally in our glass houses using hydroponic techniques. Reading is well known for its agricultural research, and we thought it's about time we really translated some of that into actual food production for our catering and dining outlets. So we aim to reduce the amount of food miles used to supply these outlets, and also the amount of food waste. So far we've been awarded £27,000 for developing this project. That's just for setting things up, but also to tie some of it into research, which I'll also talk about shortly. So who are we? So aside from myself leading the project, and we've got Matt, who I think is on the call as well. So Matt is our head of residential catering and the bars team. So he heads up all of the food outlets on our White Knights campus. Then we have Liam Doherty, who's our crop manager, technical manager at CEL, which is where we actually grow all of the plants and do all of our plant research. Luke Barnes, who's my PhD student, he's taken a lot of this work on himself. He's got a lot of expertise from a previous life where he worked in a startup company managing a vertical farm. And then we have James Hadley, who's our project technical assistant, who's going to be putting all of the hydroponics and things together for us. So our current activity, we've kind of been playing around with various different ways of growing microgreens and supplying the kitchen. So a lot of this is kind of in the still development stage, but I'll share where we kind of got up to. So we're currently setting up a hydroponic ebb and flow system in our glass houses. So this is going to be a low cost, low maintenance system, low energy input, and we're going to produce a wide variety of microgreens for the university kitchen. So we've got some listed here. So we'll be using recycled plastic punnets to grow the microgreens in, and we also have biodegradable matting. So there's not actually any soil or compost used in this. There's no need. The plants have all of the nutrients they require from the irrigation solutions. And it means it's less hassle to get rid of the waste at the end of it. So we just give these punnets to the guys in the kitchens. They can take off all the microgreens that they want to use in their dishes. Yeah, it's just a quite a small, convenient way for them to have access to the microgreens that we're going to be growing. We're also hoping to establish a more substantial hydroponic farming system. Unfortunately, I was hoping to have photos of our actual system, but the parts haven't arrived yet, so we haven't got it all set up. But this is a photo of from the manufacturer. So this is how hopefully our farm in the glass house is going to look. So it consists of these vertical towers. So we're going to have about 40 of these, and we'll be using those to grow salads and herbs throughout the year. We also hope to employ some of the students in the glass houses. So we have a campus jobs for students, so they can sign up and be employed effectively by the university to have employment doing any particular jobs, including in the catering and the bars team, but that can be extended to harvesting all of the crops and delivering them to our kitchens. So we hope initially to grow lettuce, rocket, basil, those types of things to start off with, but really we can potentially grow anything that's desired, or anything that the chefs might want us to have a go at. This is just a little bit of a close-up picture there, and just blown it up so you can kind of see a bit better. So yeah, the plants themselves just grow within the green sort of sections of of these towers here. So this is from a company called Saturn Bioponics, who my student Luke Barnes has worked with before. So we've got quite a bit of expertise in knowing how to manage these systems. So I mentioned about tying together some of the stuff we're doing with research. So I've pretty much my whole academic career, I've been studying salad rocket, which is also in the States known as arugula, or in Europe, rucola. So what we want to try and do is develop some novel products from this research. So we've learned quite a lot about the biochemistry of the plants and their genetics and how they respond to soil nutrients. So one of the things we want to try and do is kind of mimic those changes in environment to produce different tastes and flavors in the plants. Just a very short bit on what causes taste and flavor in the plants. So compounds called isothiocyanates are present in members of the brassicales family of plants. So that includes things like Brussels sprouts, which gives rise to bitterness in those, and wasabi and horseradish and things like that, which makes them very, very pungent. But they also have health benefits. And by contrasting different growing environments, we can see that the chemical compounds which underlie those particular isothiocyanates change a lot depending on where you grow them and how you grow them. So we're going to hopefully try and mimic and experiment with duplicating growing environments and different nutrient solutions to try and give rise to these changes in taste and flavor, so that we can offer products which are effectively grown the same way, but they have a consistent taste and flavor. So some will be very hot and pungent, and then we can also perhaps have some milder ones, which people generally find more palatable. So some people like the very spicy stuff, but we can have options there. So this is what we've got some funding to kind of try out, and eventually, hopefully, we'll be able to supply the kitchens again with a range of different tasting or different flavored salad rockets. Just a quick bit on future possibilities. So we're working with a local manufacturer of controlled environment vertical farming systems. These are aeroponic systems as opposed to hydroponics. We've got some ideas in the pipeline there for setting up a kind of training hub for integration with our classes and also with the crops on campus. So that's quite exciting going forward. We also have our own vertical farm in the research glasshouses for growing strawberries. So there's a photo just here. So it's a quite unique vertical farming rig for growing strawberries in layers, which each have their own LED lights. And so we're kind of playing around with the idea that when there's not experiments going on in that particular glasshouse, we can put some strawberries in and produce fruits potentially all year round. So those are just a couple of possible future things that might be going on, and maybe I can in future give a bit of an update on where we get to with all of this. But thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to present to you. I'm happy to answer any questions if there's time.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much, Luke. And I love the rocket science. That's great. So we do have about 5 minutes. Did you say that your colleague also had a presentation? Because we've got about 5 minutes.
So. Yeah.
I do have a
great. So let's hear from you, and then if we run out of time, we're up until 20 after. Then Luke, you can just address those questions in the chat if
Sure, no worries.
Take it away.
Okay, I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, so I'm Michelle Thomas. I'm the postdoctoral research associate for public health on the Food Sequel Health project, and we're currently testing a feasibility scheme for supplying a community in Reading and Plymouth with vouchers for the purchase of fresh fruit and vegetables. Okay, so I'll just give a little brief overview about Fresh Street Community. So Fresh Street Community is based within community hubs in areas of high level of deprivation. And what's great about this is that we've started a new business, and we've started a new fruit and vegetable stall, and then we provide citizens in the area with £10 of vouchers per fortnight for them to then spend at the fruit and vegetable stall, which is run by local community members and the local community hub. I'll just give you a brief overview of where we get our supplies from. So we use, so we have an intervention in Plymouth and we have one in Reading. So a CA Belcher and Son is based in Reading, and they source their fruit and vegetables from wholesalers, predominantly from New Covent Market and Western International. And then in Plymouth, they source from Tamar Fresh, and Tamar Fresh source from local producers, very local producers in their area. Okay, so I'm just going to focus this part of the presentation to Reading, and this just gives an overview of the demographics and the indices of multiple deprivation in Reading. So the indices of multiple deprivation encompass, I think, 6 indicators, which includes income, includes health, crime, access to education. From the map, we can see where it's highlighted, the ring in red. That's Whitley, that's where our intervention is based, and it's got a very high levels of deprivation. It's between 1 and 3. Whitley has around 11,500 people living there, of which is roughly a 50-50 mix of males and females. But the life expectancy is lower in Whitley compared to the UK average life expectancy, and with this we see across the UK. Areas where there's least deprivation have a longer life expectancy. Okay, and on here, it's just the overview of the study design. So we are currently in phase 2, but phase 1 was 11 streets in total, 5 of which were intervention streets and 6 of which were control streets. So the intervention streets, they received the £10 of vouchers fortnightly, plus a leaflet and a flyer. The leaflet would advertise the activities that were happening in the WCDA centre, and the letter would include some information around recipes that you could make with vegetable produce. Also included some information about what's in season, and that was delivered every fortnight. And then in phase 2, we changed our control street to a delayed intervention street, and also gave them £10 worth of vouchers to spend at the stall. And now we are just working on phase 3 now, and the intention there is to increase the dose and the reach. With the cost of living crisis has meant the £10 worth of vouchers every week, or £5 a week, doesn't buy you a lot as what it did when this intervention first started in 2017 in other areas. So we are working to increase the voucher value to £10 to £20 every fortnight, so effectively £10 a week. And then we're looking, from here, we're looking to change the delivery method as well, and to a collection method. This is just some of the data on the sales, and we can see here that the vouchers are driving the sales. So there's high acceptability of the intervention. The people who are receiving the vouchers are happy to receive the vouchers, and they are coming to the stall. So just some observations from citizens living in Reading and the WCDA, and what they say about the stall and what they say about their nutrition. And I think what the stall does, it brings really good quality fruit and vegetable produce from the wholesale market, but it also brings people together. It's a point of contact, it's a point of conversation, and people are really enjoying the atmosphere. And I think this is what is so lovely, that people are coming together around food. And yes, so thank you for your time. And I think what this intervention is showing, that area-based, non-means tested interventions could really address some of the diet and health inequalities that we do see. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Really, really interesting. And wow, together you two both had some just phenomenal case studies. So there are a good number of questions for you, Luke, in the chat. In the interest of time, I'll have you just address those in the chat, but across a number of different dimensions of, cost and greenhouse gas emissions and engagement with different stakeholders. So really, really interesting. Thank you. All right, next up, we are going to welcome our CIA colleagues. I'm looking on my screen here. I believe we have Taylor. I'm not sure who's going to share the screen, but excited to.
Sorry, Betsy Ho and Sean McGurl, who are both new to the CIA. Maybe they can do a little intro as well.
Yes, perfect. Please do introduce yourself. We're delighted to have you and hear more about the Farm Generations Cooperative Partnership.
Great. I have both of our presentations are in the same PowerPoint, so I'm just going to share my screen.
While Sean's getting that up, I'll introduce myself. I'm Betsy Ho, and I'm the local food procurement coordinator here, who's working directly with farm generations and also working with the CIA to increase our direct to farm and local producer relationships.
Great. Can you guys see my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet.
No.
Great.
How's that?
Perfect.
Great.
And Betsy, just let me know when to.
Okay, so I'm going to speak for a little bit, and then Sean's going to speak. It's the same thing. We kind of have, there's some crossover with what we do, but we are sort of operating separately. So the grant that we are participating in comes out of the Farmers Market and Local Food Promotion Program through the USDA Ag and Market Service. Farm Generations Cooperative, which is a farmer-owned entity, approached us and asked if we would like to participate in applying for this grant, and it was awarded for 2.5 years, and it began at the end of 2023. Farm Generations is the owner of the Grown By platform, which is a farmer-owned entity that basically is an online marketplace and currently is connecting direct to customer. Next slide. So the premise of the grant was pretty simple. We're wanting to connect the Hudson Valley farmers with the Culinary Institute through an online wholesale marketplace. In the past 20 years, the Hudson Valley there's been a resurgence of farming, a new generation of young farmers who really are not generational farms, have generational farming background. And a lot of it was fueled by like sustainable farming and organic farming. And the basic ideology behind it was serving direct to customer. So creating community bonds, creating a local food shed. So a lot of the emphasis had been on CSAs and farmers markets. And so this venture seeks to open up the marketplace to wholesale and in particular sales to institutions. So we were excited to participate in this, and that's how my position as the local food procurement coordinator was created. So my job is to support the testing of this new wholesale online marketplace, and also to increase the local food spend at the CIA through building direct relationships with producers and local distributors. I'm 12 years a farmer. I'm actually farming today, and I'm taking a bit of time to do this presentation. So next slide. So as I said, currently the Grown By app or platform is serving farmers who become part of the cooperative, and they put up a profile, have a storefront. You can go to the next slide. They have a storefront where you can see their items. They also can sell CSA shares. So still using the grown by branding as in a way. The Farm Generations Cooperative owners, Lindsay Shute, wanted to expand it to wholesale. So they are currently in development right now. And we have a rapport with them in the sense that we are telling them what we find might be helpful features for this online marketplace. And basically, the hope is that through the expansion of this app to wholesale, farmers can bypass the extractive fees that a lot of national distributors charge. They can find more wholesale customers if it attracts customers like ourselves or other institutions, and basically be able to strengthen local food economies and those direct relationships, but also do it in a way where it could have national reach. So this is not an app that is limited to just the Hudson Valley. It is seeking to be nationwide, but concentrating those relationships regionally and locally. Next slide. So the project objectives will be are to create new procurement relationships, as I mentioned, and basically in participating in this project, we'll be the first wholesale customer in the beta testing of the platform, which will launch in September, which is the start of our school year, as everybody else in the academic world knows. But also my job isn't just to support the participation through the app, but is also bringing in relationships that won't function through the app necessarily. I'm 12 years a farmer, so I do have a lot of relationships. And as I'm learning what the obstacles are for our particular region and our particular institution, I'm realizing that there's a lot of creativity that is required for us to create these relationships. And I'll explain that a little bit more. But my first sourcing this summer is stone fruit, which I saw a lot of people really like stone fruit, and I'm really excited. It's not something that we normally have, but through trying to create direct relationships also with the chefs, the teaching chefs, and also the restaurants, I'm trying to create an interest in certain products that we could source across chefs because of our particular challenges of trying to meet minimums through the Culinary Institute. So
just a super quick time check. We've got about 2 minutes left.
Okay, sorry. So Farm Generation saw the need to simplify communications and ordering and to allow farmers to keep their profits, and the hope is that, yes, that this has national reach. The next slide. I'm currently knee deep, and also Taylor, in the internal procurement process and needs assessment phase, kind of understanding the complex system that the CIA functions on. What's unique is that we from a supplier side, we actually are several customers. We're a restaurant group with several eateries. We're an educational institution with kitchen classes. We have catering businesses, and we have a food court that serves students and visitors. So all that is serviced through one team of wholesale buyers and packers that we call, which is the storeroom. So in a lot of ways, we're making purchases, and these entities are not, or chefs are not, aware of what everyone else is doing. So part of my job is to kind of create communication across chefs and create an internal aggregation need so that it can be workable for a farmer to come and be worthwhile for them to come to deliver at the school. We also have a complicated procurement software that basically functions on requisition. So chefs put in a requisition, the storeroom reviews it, and then contacts the supplier. Then he has to hear back from the supplier whether it's available. Then if it is or if it's not, communicates that to the chef. So there's a lot of there are shorts, and timeliness is a bit sacrificed because of that system. And hopefully the Grown By app is going to be live inventory, so that will help. We also have a challenge.
So sorry, Betsy, I'm gonna have to cut you off there. We do have to move on to our other speakers. So sorry.
Oh my gosh, Sean didn't get to.
So Sean, if you can go ahead and give your updates in the chat, that will be great. And thank you very much, Betsy. It's really remarkable. So many comments flooding in. Hi, myself. So many comments flooding in of the interest and great admiration for this work. So huge thanks to you both. And with that, I'm going to hand it to our first sponsor spotlight, which is Illy. And friendly note, we've got 8 minutes per speaker. I know it's always lots to pack in, but we'll let you take it from there and keep the conversation going in the chat. Thanks.
I believe we're passing it to Jessica Kroll, who's going to share from Illy. And Jessica.
It'll actually be Heidi Rasmussen on
Heidi. Okay, great.
University of Coffee team.
Great. And
she just got kicked off for some reason, so give her 1 second to get back.
Yeah,
So
maybe
I'm ready
what we can
for
do.
Abby. I'm ready if you want me to jump in.
That would be great. I was gonna say, Ember, that'd be wonderful. So why don't you
Great.
take it away?
Perfect. You can see my screen there?
Yes.
Fabulous. All right. So I'm going to dive right in, and forgive me, I'm probably going to speak rather quickly through these 8 minutes because we have a lot to capture with regards to lentils.org, how lentils are grown, why they're so sustainable, and what that all really means and how it's quantified. If I can advance my slides, there we go. So really quickly, just a little refresher. I think this group loves to hear about how different things are grown and what the plants look like. So I'll set the stage there just really quickly. So our lentils in particular, one of our key pulse crops up here in Canada, are planted in early May. So we did have a slow start to seeding this year. We did get rain. So for those of you who I talked to over the last few years, and we've talked a lot about drought conditions, we are out of that and we've got moisture, which is fabulous. So all those lentils are in the ground right now. Typically our lentils are harvested in mid to late August. And in the last few years, that's been definitely in July due to drought conditions, but a little bit more of a typical year this year. So very short season crop, which is well adapted to our area where we get, real winter conditions for half of the year. The plants are pretty modest. They only grow to be about a foot tall, so very, very short in stature. Definitely a big differential between, corn and soybean, which are maybe crops that you're more familiar with in different areas in the US. The lentils themselves grow in super tiny little pods that you'll see on the screen there. Each pod will only have 1, 2, or in exceptional circumstances, maybe 3 lentils in each of those pods. And each plant will have, 30 to maybe 45, and in a good year, maybe 60 pods on that plant. To give you some capacity ideas, we will grow anywhere between 2 and 4 million acres of lentils in just the province of Saskatchewan on a single year. So we're here to talk about sustainability and agricultural practices. I think that new fun term in this space is regenerative agriculture as well. Similar concepts, sustainability or sustainable agriculture is seeking to maintain or cease further degradation of the land, whereas regenerative agriculture seeks to restore that land and promote beneficial soil health practices. So we'll talk a lot about those things today. But it's important when we're talking about sustainability to really focus on all measures of sustainability, not one in singularity, or else you're really not getting a good picture of the entire production system of that crop. So here we'll touch very briefly on carbon, water, some other soil health benefits like nitrogen fixation, crop rotation, no-till, etc. So we'll start with carbon, often known as the big, bad, and ugly in the sustainability world, if you will. And really the message here is that when you produce lentils, you're actually in a negative carbon footprint situation. So more carbon is actually stored, or what we call sequestered, in the land than is emitted in the production system of lentils. So that carbon balance is actually negative, which is a really positive story when GHG emissions are among kind of those top measurable sustainability targets and goals that many organizations are setting. And I mentioned Canada briefly off the top, and usually I give a little bit better background of who we are, where we come from, and why, but I'll maybe come back to that now. So we represent farmers in Canada, particularly Western Canada, who grow lentils, and there's a really important reason for that. Production systems are different in different areas of the world, and often dictated by conditions. So whether it's your soil, whether it's your land, whether it's your seasons, and the practices that are allowed to be deployed based on those standards. So here in Saskatchewan, where I'm from, in Canada in particular, we have amongst truly the most sustainable production systems for pulses, in particular lentils, in all of the world. So you can see here that carbon emission score of lentils grown in Canada, Saskatchewan, and then other key production areas around the world. And we are leaps and bounds really in terms of sustainable production ahead of the others. So some of the reasons for that, that all contribute to this full kind of package of sustainability. One of the main ones is nitrogen fixation. So pulse crops, including lentils, are able to fix their own nitrogen, i.e. basically creating their own fertilizer. What happens is basically their root systems are able to create a relationship with bacteria in the soil and produce these little nodules on the ends of those root systems. And that creates nitrogen and emits it into the soil, which creates fertilizer for that lentil crop to grow. But it also actually overproduces. So it produces more nitrogen than it needs to consume and leaves extra in the soil for the next crop that's grown on that piece of land. So creating its own nitrogen fertilizer and creating some for that next crop that will later be on that same piece of soil. In Western Canada, we also practice both sustainable crop rotations and no-till agriculture, which greatly benefits soil health, biodiversity, and the entire production system. So when I say sustainable crop rotations, I mean our farmers are not growing the same crop on that piece of land for anywhere from 3 to 8 years. So a typical crop rotation in our area of the world includes a cereal crop, so wheat, oats, barley, oilseed crop, so canola or flax in most cases, and then a pulse crop. So peas and lentils are most common. Sometimes we're throwing some chickpeas and faba beans in there as well. So we're rotating those crops on a specific piece of land every single year to naturally combat weeds, pests, and disease and insect cycles. So that's one way that we can ensure that weeds or a certain insect is not learning how to combat or eat or take down that plant. If we're constantly switching up what's on that piece of land, we're able to naturally combat some of those pests that can be challenging to deal with when we're growing. On no-till agriculture, so over 75% of our farmers in Western Canada are not tilling the land. That means that we are seeding that seed or that crop directly into the stubble of the previous crop. We leave that stubble standing, and there's a really important reason for that, and it's to protect that land against soil erosion. So you'll see in that photo on the screen, we've got little lentil sprouts popping up in the dirt there in between rows of wheat stubble. So we're not working the land, which means we're not sending a tractor through that land to work that up. We're not adding additional emissions in that way, and we're keeping that soil standing. If a big wind were to come through on a drought year, we all know those photos of the dirty 30s when all that topsoil is just blowing away. We only have about 3 to 6 inches of viable topsoil in our region of the world. So it's very, very important that we are protecting that from erosion, because that's really what's providing that healthy, diverse organic material to grow a really great crop. And then finally, I think this is my last slide. Water is a huge part of this story, but it's a very simple kind of story for us. So we don't irrigate our crops. So there's no water added to the system when we're producing lentils or other pulse crops. The exception would be dry beans, which can be grown under irrigation as an option. But basically, if it rains, awesome. Our farmers are very happy, especially at specific times within that growing season. But if it doesn't rain, these lentils and other pulses are very well adapted to semi-arid and drought conditions, and they will perform better than other crops under a minimal rain situation. So very, very low water footprint in that we're not adding anything. It's environmental precipitation only. And then really briefly on zero waste or low waste. You'll see a photo of a combine on the screen there. You see a bunch of what maybe looks like dirt or dust being kicked up behind it. There's no waste in the production system of lentils. So what that combine is doing is it's rolling through the field. It's got a flex header on it to pick up those really, really, really short plants. It's scooping it all up into the back of the combine, and the combine is basically shaking those little tiny lentil seeds loose from the stalks, shell, the pod shells, and the stems. And all that organic material that is considered waste, we're only keeping the seed, is then redistributed out the back of that combine onto the land. It goes through a straw chopper, so it's chopped up really, really fine, and that's what you're seeing coming out of the back of that combine. So that gets laid down on the land, and naturally over time it gets reworked into the soil, and it really is basically natural compost. And then anything else that's cleaned out at the processor who's cleaning those seeds for human consumption, that really gets moved into either compost or animal feed or whatnot. So there's really no waste in that entire system. So that was really quick. I hope I was okay on time. We'll answer questions in the chat, and hopefully if we distribute slides, there are some links here that have some additional information, including a video that goes over similar information. And if we have any sustainability folks on their call, there is a full life cycle assessment that puts data behind everything I just talked about, and feeds into different life cycle databases to quantify any reformulation of food products. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Amber. This is wonderful. And yes, we will definitely share slides after. Really great to get a little window into just more information about how lentils are grown and the full system. So thank you for that. I will definitely be clicking some of those links. I'm going to pass it now back over to Heidi Rasmussen to present from ILI. And Heidi, I will let you. Yeah, no worries. Now's your time.
Of 1990s technology. So during my presentation, I may shut my video off just for safety. So, so just so you know,
Great.
let me do some sharing. It's not letting me do what I need to do.
Yeah, if you go to slideshow, it should give you a chance to
Yeah,
present there now.
Get rid of. Hold on. Should have somebody go again, just doesn't have any challenges.
If you'd like, to defer once more, I can present the next speaker. Up to you.
Yeah, that might be a good idea. I think I need to.
Heidi, Signe is on the line, and if you need, I could present what you sent me by Teams the other day. Her colleague at Ely.
Yeah.
Yeah, how about I pass it over to Oatly, and then we'll come back to you, and then I'll also have the slides ready to go, Heidi, so I can share them if you need.
Sounds very good. Heidi and I'll confer.
Okay, great. So I will now pass it over to Stacy Cushenberry, who's the Food Systems Program Manager for North America at Oatly, and I will let you take it from here.
Can everyone see this?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. Hello, everyone. My name is Stacy Cushenberry. I am standing in for Julie Kunin, who is in Sweden this week. So I'm going to present a bit on our regenerative oat work. My role at Oatly is really the day-to-day management of our regenerative work in North America, and then also quite a bit of support for our regenerative work in Europe, specifically in Sweden. And then I do the greenhouse gas and carbon accounting stuff for the company globally on agricultural land. So a few different hats that I'm going to wear today. So I'm assuming everyone's familiar with Oatly. Obviously today I'm going to be talking about oats primarily. The other crop that we do work similar to oats is canola or rapeseed oil. The thing I really want to talk about is how we started down the regenerative oats kind of road. It really started before I joined the company, creating this framework called the farm. And the farm framework was Oatly's start at understanding regenerative agriculture and the complexities that are involved in it. And the farm framework really encompasses all the different areas that one would think of when thinking of regenerative. We obviously have like the soil health, water quality, biodiversity, but we additionally have the socioeconomic side of regenerative. So farmers' living wages, their community health, their mental health, and trying to understand how the programs that we're instituting primarily in Canada for North America are affecting this entire ecosystem. And this program is aimed not just at the farmers that we work directly with Oatly through our mill, but the whole region. We're not just looking at, the farmers that we know exactly that we get their oats from. We really want to help influence change in this entire region of Saskatchewan and parts of Manitoba. And so the farm goals are lofty, right? As many companies' regenerative goals are. We have kind of these three big buckets. We want to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. We want to improve ecosystem function, and again, that viability and resiliency. And so in each one of these categories, Oatly's really taken a lot of time to understand the practices and the ways of measurement that are going to work for our partners, and our partners being the mill partners, on the ground technical staff, so agronomy staff, and then obviously the farmers foremost. And so obviously scaling is always a challenge with regenerative work. And the way we see this is to be incredibly iterative. One thing that we are doing with our partners in Canada is scaling over time. We started the program in Canada in 2023 with just a few hundred acres, moving it up to a couple thousand acres, and then, kind of getting to our 2030 goal of 100%. But we really started with those practices such as annual living cover, reductions in land conversion, perennial living cover, that kind of fit into that first bucket. The second iteration is a lot around nutrient management. We're really diving more into that and the biodiversity components. And then that third bucket is what I talked about with the socioeconomic and bringing that kind of holistic view full circle. And so another important thing for us is how do we measure? And that's, a big part of my job is we want to be able to measure what we can now, understand what we can't measure, and work towards it. And the reason why is we obviously have large commitments. We have, public commitments to reduce our footprint. We also understand that these practices, whether or not we can measure them in this moment, are good for our farmers and good for the region. And we also want to be able to work with farmers and our mill partners to reduce the time that data entry requires. No one wants to do double entry, multiple different streams. No one wants to get into that. So right now, what we're looking at the supplier shed level, so working really closely with our mill partner, is the soil organic carbon, net emissions, and then greenhouse gas emissions. We are also looking at the abatement potential of many of these practices to understand where are the farmers going to see the most benefit, where are we going to see the most reductions, and then understanding biodiversity impacts. These are much more complex. We still, I wouldn't say we have this solved, but we're definitely looking at how do we measure biodiversity in a way of habitat establishment. And then we are starting to dive, obviously, into that socioeconomic impacts. So a little bit more about the farm oat sourcing program. Really, it's developed for all the reasons I said around this holistic view. But the approach is to partner incredibly closely with our mill partners. So Oatly, so it gets its oats via mass balance, so we don't have direct to farmer relationships. So we've worked with our mill partner in Canada to develop this program with them, to have, you know, a cohort of farmers sit at the table, develop a program that's going to work for them, that we can also bring to other companies that our mill is working with. And then jointly work with our mill partner in the measurement component. So we work specifically with the company Regrow to understand our supplier shed level impacts, and Regrow, our mill partner, and obviously Oatly, we all sit at the table to understand what we're measuring, how we're measuring it, and the data that's coming out of it. This is kind of a little bit of an illustration of all the partners that have to be at the table for this. I'd love to say that it's just the mill, the technical provider, and Oatly, but there are so many folks that have to be involved in this. And because we are providing incentive payments for practice, it means that we have to understand the costs that the farmers have for each one of these practices. We try to get them as whole as possible. So finance is one of our biggest kind of understandings, is how do you work through these types of programs to get producers as whole as possible. Understanding regenerative practices cost quite a bit of money. But also work with the provincial government in Canada to offset some of those costs. How do you work with nonprofits? So there's a lot of folks that have to sit at the table with us. And then finally, I'll just talk a little bit about the producer experience. I think it's really important, having been a producer for most of my career based in the Midwest, data privacy is incredibly important. We do not see data from producers. It's aggregated, anonymized data. But we do share the results and the outcomes of the program with the farmers. This is an important thing to us. We want them to understand what we're collecting, why we're collecting it, and what it means to their farm. This is useful information, and we need to break it down in a way that's going to make sense. Also, as I said, the farmers get incentive payments for these practices, and they are geared towards each practice. As we all know, some practices can be incredibly expensive, like instituting some of the biodiversity practices that require engineering. There's some practices that can be a little less. And so making sure we have a payment structure that allows farmers to get enough money to institute the practice, try it out, and establish it on their farm and other fields is incredibly important to us. And then also the communication. We share ideas. We work with our cohort of farmers. I'm up in Canada with our mill partners, getting continuous feedback on the program, because this needs to work for them. And if it doesn't work for them, it won't work for Oatly. So I hope that gives you guys a little bit of insight, and feel free, I can answer questions in the chat, or feel free to reach out to me.
That's great. Thank you so much, Stacy, for that. And I will go ahead and just share my screen now, Heidi, and then we will give you a couple extra minutes at the end here. And yes, so if that's okay, I'll go ahead and we'll avoid any other technical difficulties.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's okay. And then now
is real, so
yep,
for sure. I'm going to thank Oatly and Lentils for hopping in, and
maybe I'm not sharing my screen.
Really appreciate
Try this one more time. And okay, it's going to be here. And then I'm going to do the slideshow from the beginning. Here we go. And is it working? No.
Enable editing on the slide.
So here we
It's
go.
protected views. Just hit enable editing, and you should be able to open it.
Okay, I see what's happening here.
Yep.
Let me do it this way. And I said I would have it ready for you, but I was watching the other presentation. All right,
the presentation came.
Let me see if I can do mine real quick.
There we go. I think I have it.
I have mine ready too, ladies.
What time's the charm?
The struggle is real. The struggle is real.
All right.
Okay.
We have 3 presentations ready to go. Who's going to go?
Here we go.
Need to make sure I'm sharing sound.
Got it. Woo. All right.
Enable the content.
Everyone see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yoo-hoo!
We made it.
Wow. Thanks, everybody, for hanging in there with us. Today, we're going to talk about regenerative agriculture when it comes to coffee and some of the efforts that Ely is making in the field when it comes to this initiative. Regenerative agriculture is not new. It's something that's been around for centuries. It really is a way of a set of practices and to sort of work with nature instead of working against nature. So next slide. So I'm going to show a video now. It's like it's still a 2-minute video that sort of gives you a overarching view of sort of what we're doing and a little bit about regenerative agriculture. Hopefully. Just click on the slide. It may that the content wasn't enabled. It may not run.
Well, we will share the slides after. So if you want to proceed, and then we can share the
We'll just
video
proceed.
after.
I can make it up. I'll act it out. How about that?
Okay, great. Thanks.
Goes like this and then like this. Okay. So again, I'm gonna just because I'm afraid, I'm gonna turn off my video just so that I guess I'm not. I guess you're sharing. Oh man, I'm such a ridiculous person. So regenerative agriculture is, again, it's something that's not new. In fact, the term was coined in the 1980s, but it's been around for a long time. And these are the 5 probably basic reasons or biggest reasons why regenerative agriculture is super important. It sequesters carbon in the soil. It is about 30% of our soil has been lost in the last 100 years, and the soil is producing no longer nutrient dense foods. Human health, of course, is being negatively impacted by this, and it takes. I love that this fact is really amazing. It takes 10 times more energy to produce our food today than the food the energy actually provides for us. So it's critically important to understand the principles of it. Again, it's not a set bit, it's not the same for everything that you grow. It changes depending on what you're growing. It's a set of sort of principles and a way of doing business. Next slide. So this shows that this is all over the place where you'll find these 5 core principles, and it really is looking at how the soil is handled, whether there is a crop diversity, whether there is the water. I think that both Oatley and Lentil talked about these principles, but it's much greater than that. So we're looking at improving soil biodiversity, climate resilience, water resources, while making farming much more productive, healthy, and profitable. So next. So Ely Cafe has pledged to become carbon neutral by 2033, which is our 100th anniversary. And this includes everything that we do from start to finish. And eventually we hope to be carbon negative. So it's really important, this commitment to regenerative agriculture. So we're really focused on this now, although Ely's been working directly with our farmers for years and have always helped promote good farming practices. We have agronomists that work in the fields with farmers over 300 days out of the year. The importance of all of this is that we're working worldwide to find the best solutions depending on where we are. The limitation of a singular certification, for example, is that it's limited to generally like a small scope. And so what Ely's looking at is a whole of practices and how we do things in different countries around the world. We have been directly sourcing from farmers since about the late 1980s, because in order to get the quality that we're looking for and also to build relationships, farmers have generational knowledge when it comes to growing coffee, and we have access to certain technologies and information. We have a group called Circulo Ely, where farmers can come together and share ideas and share the knowledge that they have as well. So next slide. We're really excited because we just launched our very first certified coffee product. we've been working with the Federation in Cerrado Mineiro in Brazil. We've worked with the Federation of Farmers there for years. In fact, we've been doing business there for over 30 years, along with Regenagri, which is a certification that comes out of, and it's granted by the Control Union in the UK. And their objectives, it supports farms and organizations transitioning to a holistic farming methods. They are looking at increasing soil health, encouraging biodiversity. This is something that's important about regenerative agriculture, is that, for example, organic farming, which is part of regenerative agriculture, it's not separate from it, it's part of some of the principles of regenerative, are looking at specific issues about, not putting certain inputs in and not doing other things. This really is about the whole biodiversity of the soil. We're looking at reducing greenhouse gas emissions, of course, sequestering that CO2 in the soil where it belongs. And the company also provides farmers with routes to additional funds where they can add in the regeneration of the planet and sustainability and secure the future of their agricultural products. So when we joined as a member, an assessment is carried out to the farm, and the farms, there's certain criteria that they're looking for. And it's developed with experts in soil and sustainability and agronomy. And the focus really, again, is about the soil health. Ely has focused really on this one area, and we're starting to collect data. And from the data that we get from the, like how much CO2 is being sequestered and the health of the soil overall, we're collecting this data, and we're working in a couple of other experimental farms and collecting data there as well so that we can compare. And right now we're in the process of analyzing that data to see how effective some of these practices are. And again, we have to go from country to country to country to try and figure out what practices are going to work in some places and not others, because coffee growing happens in a wide belt around the equator, and there are different practices, there are different conditions that we have to look at when we're talking about coffee. So I think that the like working with the coffee farmers has been incredibly helpful. They also, let me just say that I was in a coffee farm several years ago, and a coffee farm manager said, everything that we do in the first world has an effect, and a lot of times it's negative on the developing world where they're trying to grow coffee. And in when it comes to climate change, they really know it firsthand, and they're impacted by it. And so it's important that as a coffee roaster, that we're taking responsibility and we are doing what we can in order to keep the supply chain really healthy and keep soil healthy and keep the planet healthy. And part of that is outside of just this certification that we have. Next slide. Our president and chairman, Andrea Ely, has created a society. It's called the Regenerative Society Foundation. He co-chairs it with Jeffrey Sachs, who's the director of sustainable development from Columbia University. And the founders are bringing people together, not only in academia, but also in science and businesses together to really find better ways to contribute to regenerative agriculture and to adopt these models. It is oftentimes throughout the years, there's been sort of headbutting between business and sustainability efforts. But this is a way to bring everything together and facilitate different organizations and private partnerships in order to flourish and work on regenerative agriculture and initiatives. And their aspiration is to create economic value while preserving or restoring ecosystems with co-benefits for the environment and our well-being. And I think that his own personal commitment to these initiatives has been critically important for farmers, and also for the whole new push towards focusing more on regenerative agriculture as opposed to the kind of industrial farming that has done so much damage.
Yeah, absolutely. Heidi, well, thank you so much.
And thank you, everybody, for your patience and my
yes, absolutely.
DSL that I work with.
We love technology when it works, and it gets the best of all of us at other times. So no worries at all. Thank you. Really inspiring in so many different layers to your regenerative ag journey. Thank you everyone for joining us today. This was extraordinary. It is so inspiring to see all the different ways that people are embodying better regenerative agriculture practices. And I know we're just scratched the surface. So thanks everyone for hanging in there. A friendly plug that registration has opened for the October meeting. So I believe today is the last day for the super early bird registration. Please let us know if you have any barriers to getting registered. We hope to see you there. It's September 30th. Exciting pre-event at Fenway Park and a really cool food hall. And then the meeting hosted by Boston University, October 1st to 2nd. So thanks everyone. More to come.
I also, Sheila, I'm sorry, Signe put a link in the chat to the video, which, you know, you can-
perfect. Yeah.
so sorry about that.
We'll be sure to include that and send that out. So thanks everyone and have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.